What's happening, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And today, join me for my advanced look at all these collected editions coming out from Marvel Comics this week. Let's go ahead and get started. I want to give a big thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of all of these books. These books are all due out in the direct market and book market on October 25th and 26th, depending on where you get your books. So today we're going to be looking at an Epic collection, a Marvel Masterworks, and some trade paperbacks. And as always, I put timestamps in the description of the video so you can jump around in case you're not interested in a particular title, or in case you don't want any spoilers, like any kind of spoilers at all. But before we go any further, please don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Seriously, that is helping with our YouTube algorithm because right now they seem to be focused on YouTube Shorts, which, yeah, if you've ever heard me talk, yeah, not me. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Let's do the Marvel Voices Heritage. So here we have the latest Marvel Voices. This time around we're doing Heritage. And this is really interesting because it's pretty much the voices from the Latin American community, the African American community, writing stories about these characters that have been around for a while. And some are newer than others. So here, for example, is Legacy right there, celebrating Black stories and creators. But this one focuses on Native American and Indigenous talent right here. So here are all the different stories you're going to find here, who the creators were. There's a nice introduction here by Lee Francis IV. And it's really interesting to read about that because I think, you know, growing up in the 80s and 90s, these are things that I really didn't notice. And as far as the writers, you know, to me, I gravitated towards characters that were like my personality or that I enjoyed. So I found a lot of myself in characters like, well, everybody my age wanted to be Wolverine. But also characters like Storm, or characters like Forge, or Scrooge McDuck. So for me, there was always this thing that character didn't have to look like me, didn't have to be a Latino for me to find enjoyment in their stories, or to actually understand them, or to find a little of myself in them. But now that, you know, we've come to this day and age, it seems like we have so many more voices out there that can write these particular stories from their point of views. So I find that really interesting, the gradual change that has happened over time. Because yes, most of the time when I'm talking about characters like Native American characters, you're going to find in here, Chris Claremont and Louise Simonson were the biggest voices that I remember writing these particular stories. So in here you're going to find stories. Here's, for example, Moonstar and Forge. And this is what I meant. Like, those are two characters that were heavily written by Chris Claremont. And this collects the Marvel Voices Indigenous Voices, the Heritage, One-Shot, Champions Annual #1. This right here, which is co-written by Jim Zub. And it's also written by Nila Inuksuk. And Marcos Teo is the artist. And this kind of makes me wish that we would have a oversized hardcover collection of this series, because it's so underrated. I've really enjoyed it. Also in here is Marvel 1000, well, just a little bit of it, and the issue #1 of the new Werewolf by Night. Well, I say new, but it came out in 2020. I think I did an overview of it back in 2020. We also have the United States of Captain America #3, and the Phoenix Song Echo. So all the characters you're going to find in here, for the most part, are Native American, and are written by Native Americans in this particular collection. The book has 200 pages. It's $17.99, and here's some variant covers back here of some of these characters. Oh, actually, I don't think I showed the part where is it? There's a little, yeah, right here. I love these designs. They did this in the introduction of Indigenous Voices and also the Heritage introduction. I think that's really cool. I like the design of that. This is the spread I wanted to show. I really like this design. So it's going through all the characters that are Native Americans. And honestly, I had forgotten about Snowbird. I think it was during Burns' run they did that. Or Risk, who lately showed up in House and Powers of or the Dawn of X era. But everyone else, yeah, I haven't thought about Portal in years. He was a character from Darkhawk. When are we gonna get that Darkhawk omnibus? But anyway, I like those designs. That's really cool. Next up, we have the Marvels. This is Volume 2, The Undiscovered Country, which I think is a Star Trek movie title. Yes, it is. I don't know why I think. I know it is. All right, so this continues the Marvels. Now, with a name like the Marvels, somebody in my last video was so confused. Does this have anything to do with Marvels by Alex Ross and Kurt Busiek? Does it have anything to do with Marvel by Alex Ross? If you think, I guess if you include the entirety of the Marvel Universe, then yes, it absolutely has everything to do with those books, especially Marvels by Kurt Busiek and Alex Ross. This is an ongoing series of pretty much the entire Marvel Universe being crafted and this unknown story that has happened throughout the ages and grabbing characters from across time. So that's who the Marvels are. And right here, this is a really cool issue because, gosh, man, I remember when I interviewed Mark Waid talking to him about certain people, like only a handful of people could write a book like the history of the Marvel Universe or the history of the DC Universe. And Kurt Busiek is one of those people. Like, he is just so knowledgeable. And in this, again, he's teaming up with Yildiray Sinar as the artist. But in here, they bring back this alien warrior right here. This is Arcus, the original Golden Age Vision. So now he's teaming up with Iron Man, Captain America, Storm, Warbird. There's Kevin right there. This is the new Warbird. And I love the fact that they're using Warbird because Warbird was a character that Kurt Busiek gave the title to Carol Danvers during her time with the Avengers when he was writing it. So a lot of people, were like, oh, that's just a ripoff of the Martian Manhunter. But Arcus is a lot different. He's a lot more brutal than the Martian Manhunter when it came to crime fighting. So he's a Golden Age character that appeared, I think it's already been reprinted in the Marvel Mystery Comics number 13, but he comes back in this particular miniseries, no, this is an ongoing series, teaming up with these characters. So all these characters right now are trying to figure out what's going on in this nation of Sinekong, and that's where Lady Lotus is. And in here, you get to find out a little bit more about Warbird, because she is a mysterious character. I remember when she first appeared, I was like, what is she? Shi'ar? What exactly is she? So, along with all these other characters, the mystery is starting to unravel. And it's more focused on what's going on the outside than what's going on in there. And like I mentioned, this ties heavily into every aspect of the Marvel Universe, whether it's the Golden Age, the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, the Modern Age. I don't know how many ages we're going to make up before my time is up on this world. It is really cool, though, to see like Golden Age change and Bronze Age change. And I'm sure one day we're going to have the Golden Age be about 100 years. Oh my gosh. Hope I make it. That'd be cool. But anyway, this collects issues 7 through 12 of the ongoing series. I believe it's still ongoing, and please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. This one retails for $17.99. I love this issue right here. Anytime you break the fourth wall, it's just, to me, it reminds me of the Dan Slott She-Hulk run. But here, hold on just a second. Let me go back. I love these pages right here with the flashbacks, with the different color tones. Let's look at the extras in the back. And what I was going to say is that the book has 136 pages, retailing for $17.99. And yes, I believe it is an ongoing series, and there's Kevin, the most important man in the Marvel Universe. Maybe, depending on how much Busiek uses him. Next up is Star Wars Dr. Aphra Volume 4. So now she's hitting the Crimson Reign story arc, collecting issues 16 through 20 of the new Dr. Aphra that started in 2020. So this particular issues right here that are collected focus more on the character of Dr. Aphra and has a little bit to do with the Crimson Reign story arc that's going throughout all of these Star Wars stories. But this is in the aftermath of the final, or the last story arc that happened, where she was using that thought, this right here, the thought dowser, and she got harmed. So in here, she actually gets an upgrade to her arm. Her arm is restored, and her tattoos are now upgraded. So that's really cool. So she finds out that there's another thought dowser out there, and someone has taken it. So now it's up to Dr. Aphra and Santa Steros, who have just recently escaped the Vermilion, to go on another adventure. So that's what kicks off this particular part of the Crimson Reign. And of course, Kira shows up through here. Ronan makes a return. And we have a brand new character appear from her past. This is Kofon Faris. And she's a character that has more ties with her father than Dr. Aphra. And doesn't use a lightsaber, but she thinks she's a Jedi. I kind of dig her character. She's crazy. And I will say, man, of all of the Star Wars books, the covers to these are the most misguiding covers. Let me just show you an example. Yes, this is what I mean by misleading. This is Dr. Aphra and Santa and Kofon, who is trying to kill her, all just sitting around, and they look like friends. It really reminds me of a manga title. Maybe that's why they were going for this. The cute little friendship story. No, that's not what you get at all. That's what I meant. Did I say misguiding or misleading? Misleading, sorry. But, I mean, wouldn't have covers not been misleading. Now, something else does happen. There's another return that happens through this book, but you can find out for yourself what that is. Let's look at the extras back here. Now, her new tattoos are not the only upgrade she gets. Something changes here. And I just recently announced a Dr. Aphra by Alyssa Wong omnibus. I believe it goes all the way to issue 25, so I think issue 25 they have to resolve a lot of the story arcs that are going through here. Here's all the variant covers. I really like that one right there by Paul Renaud. And on other Star Wars books right there. $15.99, 120 pages. But Dr. Aphra is not the only one going through Crimson Reign. Here is Bounty Hunters. Now, unlike Dr. Aphra, this here, I do have to talk a little bit about spoilers that happened in the last story arc with War of the Bounty Hunters. Because I just don't want to spoil this for anybody. So just in case, minor spoilers for one big thing that happens in War of the Bounty Hunters as far as the actual Bounty Hunter comics are concerned. Alright, so at the end of War of the Bounty Hunters, it's got a little bit crazy because War of the Bounty Hunters, I'll be doing an overview of the omnibus, but towards that, the main character of this is killed off by Boba Fett. Or so we think, right? Because it's Star Wars, and so Valance gets shot by Boba Fett. And now everyone is mourning him, including his friends. So Tonga is leading a new group of bounty hunters, but little do they know that Valance is actually rebuilt by Darth Vader, and he's rebuilt just like Dr. Aphra with some upgrades. You know, his eyes the robotic stuff is gone, and I mean it's still there. But the messed up part that he is rebuilt with is that his heart has been replaced by this mechanical heart that's pumping blood. And I thought, holy crap, that is messed up. Like, Darth Vader is ruthless, and he just keeps rebuilding him. Now, of course, they have a lot of history together. Even in the Star Wars era of Dark Horse, they had a history. Not just them, but also Valance and Han Solo. So Tonga is building a new group of bounty hunters. So she's got Bosk and Suckus there, and Tasu Leech. They are the new characters. And Valance is sent off on a special mission to go and kill someone maybe from his past. So that's basically the premise of these stories. Kira does show up through here. We have a new bounty hunter. And it has, this one I think out of all of them has more to do with the background story of the Crimson Reign than Dr. Aphra or even Darth Vader. But it still doesn't feel like a big part of a crossover, because there are things that are happening in this book that just would have happened without a crossover. This is written by Ethan Sachs, and the artwork I think is Ramon Box doing most of this artwork. Yeah, Ramon Box. Oh, Paolo Vianelli also helps out through the final issues here. Speaking of final issues, let's take a look at the variant covers. That first variant actually has a spoiler, so I can't show it. This one retails for $15.99, and it has 120 pages. I like that character of, what's her name? Deathstick? Then other Star Wars books. It is that time of the episode to remind everyone to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. That is the spine watching time. So here you can pause and check out exactly what all the spines look like from the books coming out this week. Alright, let's keep going. Ghost Rider, Volume 1, Unchained. Alright, this was my favorite read out of this week. I freaking loved it. I mean, yes, it's unfair to compare it to Miracle Man and other omnis that are coming out this week. But as far as the trades of this section right here, this was my favorite read. And I was worried this was going to be a mini-series because I enjoyed it so much. I was like, please don't let it end. How are they going to wrap up this story in one more issue? It is an ongoing series. So this is Benjamin Percy, Corey Smith, reigniting the character of Johnny Blaze. Now, I've always said on my channel that to me, my favorite Ghost Rider, my Ghost Rider that I grew up with was Danny Ketch. But Johnny Blaze played an important part in all of that. Now, this is, of course, after Johnny Blaze has been the ruler of hell. And he finds himself in a new status. Like, we don't know how he got here. We don't know exactly what's going on. And I love that. So it's a trope. It's a very comic trope that we've seen before. He's seeing his therapist, and his therapist is trying to figure out why he's seeing this hallucination. So, in this particular comic, we start off with Johnny Blaze just thinking that he sees demons. He's not the spirit of vengeance. He's not Ghost Rider. He never has been. All of this was due to an accident that he had, where he had a horrible concussion. So, everything that he's thought about being the spirit of vengeance, or being Sarathos, or Ghost Rider, he has been making up in his head. It's just a hallucination. So he has a therapist helping him. Like I said, we've seen that before. We've seen it in just about every comic book that has been around for more than 10 years. And that's okay. I like that trope. It's a very common trope, but it works for me every time. I'm really disappointed that my dude is drinking Jack Daniels, though, even though that might be Jim Daniels. So it might be his brother. Jack Daniels ain't bourbon, man. You gotta get bourbon. Bourbon's made in Kentucky. Jack Daniels is whiskey. But that's another story. We're talking about comics right now. But he has a family. He's raising a son. And he keeps seeing demonic things. Now, there is a little bit of like... no, there's a lot. Never mind, I'm not downplayed. There's a lot of violence in this one. I'm honestly surprised this one is rated... I think it's older teen plus. Because some of the stuff in here, I was like, wow. Might have some mature content. But, hey, teen plus works. And if you can't stomach the thought of animals getting hurt, well, I'll just say maybe skip this one. Or skip the first issue. But, like, he has things like this happening. He keeps feeling the back of his head where that scar is. And an eye pops up. He feels like there's an eye that's watching him. You don't know exactly what's going on. We have a demon right here. I think this is Zeb. That shows up. And he is able to control people. We also have one big character that I haven't talked about yet, and that is Agent Warroad. And she has some powers of darkness, and she is looking for Johnny Blaze. Now, I don't want to show off any of the art that happens later on, but this really gives you an idea of what it looks like, because I want people to be surprised, right? Is this all in his head? Was he ever Ghost Rider? Does he get to become Ghost Rider in this series? I really enjoyed this take. Benjamin Percy, he's very hit and miss with me. I really enjoyed a lot of his X-Force and his Wolverine and then ups and downs. Same with his Green Arrow. This was great, though. I mean, he kicks it off right. I really enjoyed this. This book is $17.99. Let's look at the extras together. Now, to the people that won't buy this because I didn't answer if Ghost Rider shows up in here or not. Come on. The book is called Ghost Rider. I don't have to spell it out for you. Here are all the extra variants in the back. I'm really surprised Peach Momoko does as many variants as she... Like, there's a variant that she does for every issue. There's some really cool variants in here. Is there any classic villains or classic heroes that show up in here? Well, I will say yes, there are. By the time the first 5 issues, or 5 issues are done, yes. So this collects the first 5 issues and the 50th anniversary special number 1 that came out in 2022. 144 pages, $17.99. Deadpool Epic Collection Mission Improbable. This is volume 2 of the Deadpool Epic Collections. This is where we kick off the Joe Kelly run, which a lot of people, when they think of Deadpool, the Merc with a Mouth, they think Joe Kelly. And rightly so. I mean, he put him on the spotlight. Before memes and GIFs were a thing, where people found out about Deadpool, it was Joe Kelly's run that people thought of. For me, I'm a little more old school. I always think of Fabian Nicieza as the Merc with a Mouth. So this being volume 2, we have an Ed McGuinness cover there. Here's all your creators that help write this in chronological order, as the book is. And all the artists, the pencilers, and then your table of contents. There is an interesting thing. Yeah, there's an introduction in this that was written in 2022 by Joe Kelly. Talking about the chance that he had here, talking about why he wanted to write Deadpool, the pitch for Deadpool, and I really like the pitch. I didn't know about that pitch for some reason. But there's something really interesting that he states here, and I cannot remember why. Maybe that's just my humor. But he talks about some of his humor might be crude and offensive. And he even says that it wasn't funny then, and it's not funny now. So now I'm really curious, like, what did I miss? Because I didn't read the intro, because I wanted to reread some of the stories until earlier today. I went ahead, I'm like, oh yeah, there was an intro, I got to read about it. So, I was it Blind Owl, maybe, something like that? I don't know what he was apologizing for. Okay, but let's go ahead and talk about the content, and we're going to look at the art here. This collects Wolverine 88, X-Force 47, and 56, Deadpool 1 through 9, and the -1 issue, Daredevil Deadpool Annual 97. That's when they were putting 2 characters together for an annual, and Wolverine Annual 95. Now, one thing you're going to notice right away is this issue right here. This is the issue of Wolverine 88. And the scans for this are a little rough. And it looks like the colors are fading. For anybody that had these issues, this was one of the deluxe issues, 88. If you bought the deluxe, you had the glossy paper, so the colors really popped out. Yeah, that era of late 90s, mid-90s, late 90s coloring is really hard to touch up. And when it's scanned, it looks rough. Because it's not unique to this Epic collection, it's also here. The exact same file is in the Wolverine Epic collection. I believe this is volume 8, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 8. And it's the exact same scans that they have. Hopefully, this is why I love Omnis, they will touch it up with the omnibus when that's the wrong page. When the omnibus comes out, they'll touch it up. But as you can see, the colors look really faded out in both copies. So it's not just the Deadpool Epic collection. Now, this one here is drawn by Adam Kubert and also Fabio Laguna. Fabio Laguna will always be one of these guys to me. Maybe he changes art style. That what I called a Jim Lee clone. For example, that's Psylocke right there. We've seen that post many times by Jim Lee. We've seen actually his Wolverine's phase, even his poses like so, from the trading cards, from issues of Adjectiveless X-Men. So he was just one of these guys. And I mean, a lot of guys started like that back in the day. There were a lot of Rob Liefeld clones, a lot of Jim Lee clones, a lot of Tom McFarlane clones, and a lot of those clones, the one I remember the most is Travis Cherish. And he went on to develop his own style, and I think at times surpassed what Jim Lee did. Then we have Wolverine 95 right here. This is the one that's written by Christopher Golden, Ben Herrera doing the artwork. Here we have the Jeff Loeb, Adam Polina stuff on X-Force. And this pretty much just brings Deadpool and Siren together. Like, why she shows up a lot, their relationship. It's also important to note that during this time, Sabretooth, well, it's when Wolverine popped the third claw, and he became sort of a baby, a good guy for a while, hanging out with X-Force. Hey, I was just talking about Risk in that one issue of Heritage. Okay, there's Warpath. Then we go into Deadpool. So this is where he just has fun. Like, I mean, the things that they were doing in here were just so ridiculous. And, you know, Deadpool is not a good guy. He's kind of an a-hole throughout this. And I think that's why people really enjoyed him. He's not your average hero. In here, he fights Sasquatch right there from Alpha Flight. He's reunited with Siren. he fights the Taskmaster, which I never did like the colors of Taskmaster that they use, but I love his art by Ed McGuinness. Ed McGuinness was a newcomer too. I think all he had done before this, at least for Marvel that I remember, was annual, like the Wolverine annual, I believe. But he loses a finger in the fight against Taskmaster, so in an effort to get his powers back, the regenerative powers that he has to go and get a sample of the Incredible Hulk's blood. So that leads into a fight with the Incredible Hulk. And there's just a lot of goofiness like that happens through here in the first 9 issues. There's T-Ray right there. I believe is this Kevin Lau that does this art? Yeah, Ed McGuinness and Kevin Lau. Kevin Lau was the guy to me. I don't know, people think of like Jeffrey Scott Campbell, Arthur Adams, Michael Golden, and Humberto Ramos and Joe Mad as like the guys that are like, oh, they have an anime style. They have a manga style. Kevin Lau to me was manga. Like at the time when I was leaving comics, I remember Kevin Lau coming in and drawing X-Force, and I thought, man, they have really gone towards the manga route. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, right? You got to get new audience, and kids were bigger into, or getting huge into anime and manga there towards 96 and 97. That is adorable. So it makes sense why they decided to go that particular route. Now there's a confrontation between Wade Wilson here and the man that was responsible for making Wade look the way that he does, and it's up to Siren to stop him. And that, I think that one coincides with that the Daredevil Deadpool Annual 97. And we also have this story with Typhoid Mary here. Very underused character from Daredevil at the time, because now I think she's everywhere. Yeah, she plays a big part in Chip Zdarsky's run. But at the time, it was Anna Shanty using her, and then she kind of disappeared into the unknown for a while. Then let's look at the -1 issue, because the -1 issue is put perfectly in here. So this is the -1 issue. This one's also written by Jeff Loeb. I think Aaron Lopresti does the artwork in here. Very Steranko look to the beginning there. But this one here focuses on his origin, like retelling his origin. This time throwing in a couple of extra things. There's Zoe from, oh my gosh, what is it? Landau, Luckman, and Lark. I can't remember the 3 L's. Oh my gosh. Okay, I gotta think. They were from Wolverine. But anyway, that doesn't matter right now. This kind of tells like a retelling of his origin and his first love interest. So I think it's rightly placed right here between issues 5 and 6. Now, the stuff in here has been collected if you have, or actually 6 and 7, sorry. It has been collected in classic formats, so the trade paperbacks, omnibus formats, and they were starting to do a complete collection. So it's been collected before in different formats, but this is the epic format. This is the way that a lot of people collect these classic stories. And it's weird to say classic stories about a comic that started in 1997. And I guess the more time passes, the more classic stories will change in definition. Classic stories one day for someone will be, oh yeah, Civil War, you remember that? Or comics that took place in 2010. Or House and Powers of X. It's a classic story, remember? It happened decades ago. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Book has 432 pages, so let's look at the extras. This one retails for $39.99. You have the character designs, you have the letter columns to Deadpool, the featurettes. A lot of Ed McGuinness artwork here. The issue number 9 featurette. House hats, trading cards. There's the Joe Mad. Slayback. He also did a Slayback card. Surprised they didn't put Slayback in here. But that is Deadpool. Mission Improbable. Last but certainly not least is the Incredible Hulk. Marvel Masterworks, Volume 16. So this one retails for $75. And like all the Marvel Masterworks, comes with a dust jacket. It is a standard size hardcover. The dust jacket tells you a little bit about what this is, Excelsior, and of course what other Marvel Masterworks there are. So now we're getting into the Bill Mantlo era. I think the last issue was, was it Roger Stern? Uncle Rog, I think, wrote the issue 244, if I remember. Been a while since I've read that masterwork. But this collects issues 245 to 255, the Marvel Treasury Edition 25, and then material from Marvel Treasury Edition 26. And here are your credits: Bill Mantlo, Mark Grunwald, Stephen Grant, Sal Buscema. Steve Ditko does a fill-in issue, Herb Trimpe doing the Marvel Treasury Edition, and Bruce Patterson doing the inks, the lettering, the colorists, the editors, and the assistant editor at the time is the lady that does the introduction to this, and that's Mary Jo Duffy. So here's your table of contents where you're going to find each of these issues. The book printed at the Donnelly printer. Somebody told me that they thought they were starting to be printed at the iMac printer, and I haven't seen a single masterwork that was printed there. Most of these, I think they have a contract with Donnelly, at least for the last 5 years. But by all means, please let me know if you know otherwise. Here's your introduction by Jo Duffy. Of course, Jo Duffy, not only an editor, but she was assistant editor at the time to Al Milgrom, and really goes a little bit behind the scenes, not so much about the stories, but about what was going on at the office at the time. But she also wrote things like, I remember, of course, Fallen Angels is the one that I think of, but she also wrote Crystar and Power Man and Iron Fist. So here we have the Sal Buscema and Bill Mantlo era of Hulk. And it starts off with something really sad and depressing. Man, because it's like going back to the story of Jarella, his love, and just that was killed off when she came to Earth. So Hulk is now trying to retrieve her body so he can fulfill her last wishes, and that is to be buried in her own world. So that's what he's doing in this very first issue, and it's never that easy. I mean, he goes on a rampage in this military facility, and his whole goal is just to retrieve her and take her to Kai. But before he can do that, of course, there's misunderstandings, and there's the original Marvel, Captain Marvel coming in here. I find it interesting that these are getting smaller and smaller. The Marvel's TV sensation used to be huge. Now it's getting smaller. So eventually, yes, he's able to see the love of his life dead, and with the help of Captain Marvel, takes her back to Kai to bury her. Now, it's really sad too. When he goes back there, he sees that Kai's in ruins. Also in the outside world is Thunderbolt Ross getting the help of Doc Samson, because Thunderbolt Ross has kind of lost his mind. Don't worry, there's another jerk character that takes his role here. But here he wants, to bury her, so he meets the gardener. The gardener tells him about, being this being from a cosmic being. And we've seen cosmic beings throughout the Marvel Universe before, of course, mainly through the Fantastic Four, and then, of course, books like Adam Warlock, Captain Marvel, who just showed up. So this is Bill Mantlo and Sal Buscema's beginning. This is what started off their run together. This is the Steve Ditko issue, I believe. Yeah, right here, Steve Ditko doing this particular issue with the return of a character, Jack Frost. There he is. Then we have Silver Surfer. I believe this one is the Hulk 250, the big anniversary issue. So they were on a book for 5 years, and this stuff has been printed in, I think it was the big thick trade paperbacks. They just started doing the actual epic collections, like in Crossroads. There was a really interesting collection that came out in this Marvel Premiere format, and that is Heart of the Atom. That's actually where I read this stuff for the first time. Not all of it. I had read the Harlan Ellison story, but a lot of the stuff I read it through here first. And it's been a long time since I've read this particular run on Hulk. And can I just say how much Sal was just channeling his big brother, Big John Buscema here? And if anybody knows, what did they call Sal? Because if John was Big John Buscema, what did they call Sal in the bullpen? What did they call him in the office? I'm always curious about that. I may have asked that before. Someone might have answered, and for some reason I just didn't pay attention. Now, the 3D Man is not the only returning character. We have a lot of returning characters. We have a lot of fights, like with Doc Samson and the Silver Surfer, the UFOs. Then we have the Silver Spider. Spider-Man issue back here. This is part of the Marvel Treasury Edition. This is a really long issue. It's all part of the Winter Olympics, so it ties heavily with that. And the Mole Man's involved. Let's look at the extras, though. In the back, like this house ad, coming this summer, Marvel superheroes at the Summer Olympic Games. And we have some original art there by Herb Trimpe, who did the the Marvel Treasure Edition 25. Cover art by Sal Buscema, original pages. And then the biographies on these creators. And sadly, we no longer have Steve Ditko. Bill Mantlo, sadly, hasn't been the same since that hit and run in the 90s. I don't think Sal has drawn anything in a long time. Mark's no longer with us. It's just sometimes sad to look at those things. And I can't imagine doing the introduction like Mary Jo Duffy, who used to work with these legends, and a lot of them are gone. The book has 320 pages, retails for $75. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget, the CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And those were the books for this particular week. And of course, there's also Omnis coming out this week. So let me know in the comments down below if you're a trade paperback person, that this is the stuff that you get, or if you're a Marvel Masterworks and you cannot wait to read the Bill Mantlo and Sal Buscema era right there, or if you're picking up the Star Wars in trades, or you're waiting for an omnibus collection hopefully one day, or oversized hardcovers, and what you've read from this that you've really enjoyed. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.